What's up? It's Tom Frumming. There's a lot of news that came out of camp this weekend. Some of it a little concerning, but there's some good news. So we're going to hit that up here in a Twins 5, a quick hit, just kind of news dump type of video here. So first off, we're going to start. Let's lead with the good news. As you can see here, Betsy Halfan, she's going to be helping us out a lot on this video. She reported on Saturday that Byron Buxton went 3 for 3 and Alex Kirilloff played 4 innings at first base in a minor league game. So that's great to see that those guys are out there. Obviously, we would rather see them, on the playing actual big league spring games, but just to have them healthy and playing is good. Also, a guy who is sort of out of the weeds in this regard in playing with the big club and playing well is Trevor Larnach, who hit a home run on Saturday. So he's another guy trending in the right direction. So I want to lead off with those sort of good tidbits of news because, like I said, it's not all good, and that's what we're going to pivot to here. And probably the most concerning one out of anybody with these updates, especially the health updates, is Jorge Polanco. It's sounding like Jorge Polanco, it's kind of doubtful that he's going to be ready for opening day. Obviously we're so hyper-focused on that, and that's something I've been hammering on, and is that, who's ready for opening day and who's not. How much does it matter? I mean, Jorge Polanco, maybe he misses a week, he's obviously going to need some time to get ramped up and to be tracking pitches. There's still time for that, but we're kind of running out of time. So it doesn't sound like there's really reason to be concerned that Jorge Polanco is going to miss like a month or something like that. Again, she's got the Falvey quote in here. Our hope is that he's only a little bit behind relative to where we thought, but we had a pretty tight timeline to opening day as is. So, would love to see him available on opening day, but just because he's not going to be potentially opening day available doesn't mean he's going to be out super long. We'll see. It's also, should mention, in addition to now seeing, Trevor Larnach has returned, and is playing well. Nick Gordon is back and healthy and playing in official big league spring games. So, he's a guy that would factor into that second base picture for sure if Polanco's out. Kyle Farmer, obviously, another guy that would factor in that second. Moving on to the next item. This one is a bit concerning on the pitching side. And it's Tyler Mahle and Kenta Maeda. Neither of these guys has looked really great this spring. They've, as a whole, let's say, put it that way, as a whole, both of these guys have had individual outings that I thought were really encouraging. But as a whole, it's not looking great for either of these guys. Tyler Mahle, as you can see here, he's given up 16 hits and 3 home runs in 9 innings pitched. Neither of these guys throwing many strikes. Neither of these guys lighting up the radar gun. Mahle throwing harder than Maeda, but his velo drop, and that number I have on the screen here is from their most recent spring outing. So both of these guys have had velo that's been up above these marks at some points in spring. So I don't know if we totally need to sort of raise the red flags on these guys at this point, but it's not looking good. Maeda, the big thing for me is that he's walked 7 guys in 9 2/3 innings. Usually a really good control pitcher doesn't issue a lot of walks. Concerned about his command. And again, neither of them are throwing many strikes. Maeda, with the velo thing, his fastball is maybe his 3rd most used pitch behind the slider and that splitter. But everything is down. When the fastball velo is down, usually everything else is going to be down. That's why I put that up there. So it's a concern, and I think, where do we go with this information? As long as these guys are healthy, I think they're going to be breaking the camp and making the opening day roster. But this kind of really hammers home that, like, Bailey Ober, and I've thought this from the beginning, whatever you do with him, he's got to be stretched out. You absolutely cannot put him into like a long relief role or some kind of a situation where he's pitching maybe 2-3 innings at a time, but he's not stretched out to start. You absolutely need Bailey Ober ready to start at a moment's notice, whether that's you carry a 6-man rotation maybe on the big club, or you just have him in AAA pitching every 5th day stretched out. You really need that back there. And again, there's still your Louis Varlands, your Simeon Woods Richardsons are going to be there too. But we would rather see better numbers out of these guys for sure. So as camp winds down here, really going to have a microscope on those 2 guys' outings as we go on. Just today, we had some more injury updates. Just today. Sunday, we're recording this. Max Kepler was removed from today's spring game with some hip discomfort. It sounds like it's, again, as Betsy reports here, Rocco saying it's relatively minor and expects him to be okay in a few days. So no reason to really get too concerned, but certainly this is something to keep an eye on. And then you see under Betsy's tweet, we have a tweet from Dan about Jhoan Duran, who got hit with a comebacker on the minor league side on a backfield, pitching as a leg contusion. That also doesn't sound like anything too concerning, but obviously two guys who are very much in big roles projected for the Twins. Keep an eye on those going forward. And then the last item I wanted to discuss was the bullpen, because we have some movement here with who is around and who is available. Number one, Dennis Santana got claimed off waivers from the Mets. You might be thinking, who? This is a guy that the Twins claimed off waivers from Atlanta. So he was here for a very short time. But he was a guy who was out of options. So as long as he was in-house, I was figuring, well, they must like him enough to want to put him on the opening day roster. He's out of options. No, they tried to sneak him through waivers, and he was claimed by the Mets. And then the other bit is that Trevor McGill, excuse me. I was almost confused him with Tyler, his brother. Trevor McGill, he's not going to make it. He's not going to make the opening day roster. He was already optioned, and he does have options, so McGill is remaining in the Twins organization. It's not like he's being exposed to waivers now. Another guy who was not throwing with much command this spring, but we saw him a lot with the Twins. Big fastball with McGill, 98, 99 miles per hour, real impressive, but needs to get that command under control before the Twins are going to trust him. And what I have up here is the projected bullpen from Jason R.R. Martinez of Roster Resource, which you can find on Fangraphs. He has Dobnak in the opening day bullpen. That would be really fun. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it's anybody's best guess, though. Could happen, especially if the Twins are looking for some length. I think it's more likely that Danny Coulomb or Oliver Ortega or Jeff Hoffman, one of those three. Those three guys have pitched really well in spring. Hoffman doesn't have quite as impressive of overall, like you got his ERA this spring, it doesn't look great, but he's looked really good in most of his outings. You know, spring's such a small sample size. Give it one bad outing, give up a couple runs, your ERA is pretty much shot for the spring, but he's looked, all three of those guys I think are pretty legit. Dobnak's had some moments too. You know, if the Twins want some length, it's possible, but he's not the guy that I would see the front runner. The main kind of thing here is that that last bullpen spot is wide open at this point, which is kind of fun. That's certainly something to keep an eye on as spring training winds down. So thanks so much for checking this out. Thank you to all the channel members for sponsoring this video. Here are the premium members. These are the people who are basically helping me not flood you with like sports betting ads, basically, in these. So thanks to all of you. We'll talk again soon.